Making headlines this hour, Minister of Homeland Security, Labour and Technology Ali Ihsan says resort chains, construction companies and some political figures are involved in the dollar black market, adding that authorities will investigate the cases and take action. Governor of the Maldives Monetary Authority Ahmad Munawwar says the central bank aims to transition financial transactions in the Maldives to the local currency by 2030. The Maldives government and the United Nations signs a new cooperation framework setting out their shared development priorities for the country over the next 5 years.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Idham Naim. Minister of Homeland Security, Labour and Technology Ali Ihsan says resort chains, construction companies and some political figures are involved in the dollar black market, adding that authorities will investigate the cases and take action.
The government has launched several efforts to stop the unauthorized sale of US dollars on the black market. Speaking at a press conference held by the relevant ministries and the Maldives Monetary Authority, Minister Ihsan said 63 registered establishments currently provide foreign currency exchange services in the Maldives. However, authorities have also identified a large number of parties conducting money exchange activities without permits or licenses. Minister Ihsan said authorities have so far gathered information on 7 such entities which sold 76 million US dollars on the black market over the past 9 months. Explaining the legal implication of such transactions, Minister Ihsan said Maldivian law considers carrying out an activity that requires a permit without obtaining one a criminal offense. He added that some construction companies earning revenues in dollars from resort development are also selling dollars on the black market. At the same time, some political figures are involved in determining black market exchange rates. Turning to those involved in the transactions, Minister Ihsan said they include parties with extensive operations in the resort industry, people involved in construction, and some individuals active in politics. He said one resort chain sold 4 million US dollars on the black market over the past 9 months. Minister Ihsan said these activities involve serious violations of the law and that authorities will investigate the cases and take stringent legal action. He stressed that the Maldives Monetary Authority can take action under the law against every transaction involving the unauthorized sale of dollars on the black market. The law provides for fines ranging from approximately 324 US dollars to 64,851 US dollars.
Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises Hassan Zarir announces the current administration's expenditure in USD toward servicing national debt has significantly surpassed the combined payments of the previous 2 governments over a similar time frame.
During a press conference held at the President's office, providing a breakdown of historical spending during the first 2.5 years of recent terms, Minister Hassan Zarir highlighted that President Abdullah Yamin's administration spent 191 million US dollars on loan repayments, while President Ibrahim Mohammed Solih's administration paid 428 million US dollars. In contrast, under incumbent President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's administration, debt servicing has surged to 1.29 billion US dollars. The minister noted that 56% of state reserves are currently being utilized for debt repayment, which includes the complete settlement and clearance of a 500 million US dollar sukuk issued in the international financial market in 2021. Despite the heavy debt burden, the minister reassured the public that state foreign currency revenues continue to support vital national priorities. These allocations include providing dollars for citizens traveling abroad for medical treatment, paying fees for Maldivian students studying overseas, supporting local businesses, and securing essential imports such as fuel and gas. Minister Hassan Zarir emphasized that the administration is closely managing financial pressures, prioritizing both full compliance with international debt obligations and uninterrupted availability of essential commodities for the public.
Governor of the Maldives Monetary Authority MMA Ahmad Munawwar says the central bank aims to transition financial transactions in the Maldives to the Maldivian rupiah by 2030.
Speaking at a press conference held at the President's office, MMA Governor Munawwar said that the central bank plans to introduce changes to shift financial transactions towards the local currency. He noted that a significant number of financial transactions in the Maldives currently takes place in US dollars and said the MMA aims to complete the transition by 2030. Munawwar said the Maldives should become a country where all transactions take place in Maldivian rupiah, noting that previous MMA governors had also pursued the same objective. As part of this transition, the governor said changes would also need to address the payment of salaries in US dollars. Citing Trans-Maldivian Airways TMA and resorts as examples, he said shifting such payments away from the dollar would increase demand for the Maldivian rupiah. Governor also identified tourism sector land rent as another area requiring change, noting that the sector currently pays land rent owed to the government in foreign currency. He said the use of foreign currency in the Maldives currently stands at more than 40%. Alongside measures to increase the use of rupiah, Munawwar said the country would also need broader macroeconomic reforms, including measures to stabilize budgetary policy. He said the MMA ultimately envisions a managed float system for the Maldives, which would require the central bank to maintain adequate reserves. As part of wider foreign currency reforms, the government said authorities have decided to propose further amendments to the Foreign Currency Act to increase the proportion of resort dollar revenue that must be exchanged from 20% to 40%. He said the proposed amendments would also shorten the period for exchange in dollars from 3 months to 1 month and introduce a mechanism to monitor how businesses spend income earned in US dollars. The government recently proposed another amendment to the Foreign Currency Act to remove the option allowing resorts to exchange $500 per tourist and instead require them to exchange 20% of their revenue. The bill also aims to ease foreign currency exchange requirements for businesses wholly owned by Maldivians, excluding tourism businesses and financial institutions. It also seeks to address difficulties businesses face in exchanging foreign currency within the amount and time frame required by law. Under the proposed amendment, parties selling goods or providing services in the tourism sector would have to deposit their foreign currency income into a bank account. Other parties that receive the equivalent of at least 25 million US dollars in foreign currency from goods sold or services provided during the previous calendar year would also have to deposit their foreign currency income into a bank account. The existing law sets this threshold at 15 million US dollars.
The Maldives Monetary Authority (MMA) announces the central bank, in collaboration with the Maldives Customs Service, develops a new verification system designed to streamline the allocation of US dollars to importers of essential goods.
The initiative, executed under the MMS Foreign Exchange Intervention Policy, aims to ensure that foreign currency sold to commercial banks is directly and efficiently routed to businesses importing vital commodities. The verification system will allow authorities to cross-reference foreign exchange transactions conducted via telegraphic transfers or TT with physical customs data, confirming that the corresponding goods are indeed being imported into the country. To ensure the accuracy of this process, the MMA is also working alongside the Ministry of Economic Development, Transport and Trade to formally identify eligible essential goods importers. The development of the system comes during a period of heightened demand for foreign currency. The Bank of Maldives BML released over 186 million US dollars to customers for TT payments between January and the end of July this year. This represents a monthly average of 27 million US dollars, a sharp increase of 12 million US dollars compared to the monthly average recorded last year. In total, the National Bank provided 570 million US dollars to meet various customer foreign exchange needs over the first 7 months of the year, averaging 2.7 million US dollars per day. To alleviate the ongoing pressure on the foreign exchange market and make USD more accessible through the formal banking system, the MMA recently intervened. On 11th August, the central bank decided to temporarily increase the volume of US dollars sold to commercial banks for a 3-week period.
Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade Mohammed Said says Uligam in Halif Atoll is set to become an important hub for yachts used for recreational and commercial purposes with the newly developed yacht marina.
Uligam is a common destination for yachts arriving in the Maldives from abroad. During the peak tourist season each year, a large number of yachts dock at the island, bringing many tourists ashore. However, one of the biggest challenges is the lack of facilities on the island to provide services to these visitors. The government aims to develop a yacht marina specifically in Uligam, expanding these services and generate economic benefits. In a post shared on social media, Minister Saeed said that with the establishment of the new yacht marina, Uligam and the northern region would become an important hub for yachts used for recreational and commercial purposes. He added that the marina would ensure convenient, safe, and easy to use port services for such vessels. To secure the land required to establish the yacht marina in Uligam, Maldives Ports Limited or MPL has signed an agreement with the Uligam Island Council. MPL is preparing to commence physical work on the yacht marina this month. The project has been contracted to SESE Construction Private Limited. According to MPL's earlier statements, the first phase of the project will develop a marina capable of accommodating 18 yachts at a time. The marina is expected to provide the main services required by yachts, while immigration and customs services will also be available at the facility. A designated area has been allocated in Uligam specifically for the development of the yacht marina. MPL has said that the floating platform to be installed at sea will be 3 meters wide. The facility will be accessible to vessels measuring between 12 and 15 meters in length. Located in the northernmost part of the Maldives and close to international maritime routes, Uligam is well positioned to benefit from the development. Establishing a yacht marina on the island is expected to further advance the Maldives' maritime and tourism sectors.
Maldives and United Nations signs a new cooperation framework setting out their shared development priorities for the country over the next 5 years.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Irtisham Adam signed the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework UNSDCF 2027 to 2031 on behalf of the Maldivian government, while UN Resident Coordinator Hao Zhang signed for the United Nations. The framework is the UN's main strategic planning document at country level and will guide the UN development system's support for the Maldives until 2031. It sets out joint priorities and actions aimed at supporting the Maldives' national development goals and accelerating progress towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The framework was developed through consultation with government institutions, UN agencies, development partners, civil society, academia, the private sector, and other stakeholders. The UN said the framework would focus on sustainable and inclusive development while addressing the country's particular challenges as a small island developing state and an upper middle income country. It will support policy advice, evidence-based decision-making, institutional and human capacity development, and partnerships aimed at strengthening the country's resilience and development capacity. Speaking at the signing ceremony, Foreign Minister Irtisham Adam said the framework represented a shared commitment to building a prosperous and resilient future for the Maldives. She said UN support was aligned with President Dr. Mohamed Moises' vision of achieving a fully developed Maldives by 2040. Minister Irtisham called for partnership that could help the Maldives secure sustainable financing, technology, and expertise while investing in people, strengthening institutions, and expanding state and productive capacity. She said the success of the framework should ultimately be measured by the tangible improvements it brings to the lives of Maldivian people. UN Resident Coordinator said the signing marked the beginning of a new phase of implementation and reaffirmed the UN's commitment to working with the Maldivian government and other partners to turn the framework's priorities into practical results. 16 UN agencies, funds, and programs will work with the government to implement the framework, including the UN Development Programme, UNICEF, World Health Organization, International Labour Organization, and the UN Environmental Programme. A governance mechanism will also be established to oversee implementation, review progress, and ensure the activities remain aligned with national priorities throughout the 2027 to 2031 period. The signing comes as countries enter the final years of the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and marks a new stage in the long-standing partnership between the Maldives and the United Nations.
Abdulaziz Jamal Abubakar says He wants to ensure that information is already made public before people have to submit requests for it following his appointment as Information Commissioner.
Abdul Aziz Jamal Abu Bakr made the remarks while speaking at the Parliament's Committee on Independent Institutions, which is currently reviewing the President's nomination of him as Information Commissioner. Responding to questions from committee members, Abdul Aziz, who previously served as the country's first Information Commissioner, said the purpose of the Right to Information Act is to provide people with access to information and that this objective should be achieved through diplomacy. He said he would consult with government institutions to ensure information is provided on matters raised by the public, adding that public hearings would only be held when the information cannot be obtained through other means. Referring to the drafting of the Right to Information Act, Abdul Aziz told the committee that the intention of the law is for information to be disclosed proactively by government institutions. He also said he believes such information should be readily available to the public. Abdul Aziz said he decided to seek the position of Information Commissioner for the second time because the principles he followed during his previous tenure had been lost and he wanted to revive those principles. He also said he intends to address several issues currently facing the Information Commissioner's office after taking up the position. In this regard, Abdul Aziz noted that the office's website needs to be improved.
Prosecutor General Abbas Sharif states the operation of the criminal court have accelerated multiple times over as the progress of administering justice formed the focal point of discussion during an appearance on the PSM news program Rajamiyadu. The duration of the criminal investigation phase has been significantly reduced over the past 2 years, Abbas noted, underscoring an objective to expedite proceedings further while assisting cooperating agencies with their workflows. Regulatory amendments have improved Anti-Corruption Commission ACC's operations, while the Maldives Police Service has strengthened investigative procedures alongside broad court improvements. Digitalization and artificial intelligence will further bolster services upon the completion of the PGO 2.0 project, with technical assistance planned for other departments once finalized. Abbas explained institutional advancement has been underpinned by government cooperation. Upon assuming office, he sought the support of President Dr. Mohamed Moise to resolve internal administrative issues and reinforce the investigative framework, securing the President's full and continuous backing. Fenaka Corporation Limited says it is reviewing its procurement policy to align it with the guidelines of the Privatization and Corporatization Board (PCB).
Fenaka held a symposium to gather employees' view on the new procurement policy. Fenaka organized the symposium as part of efforts to further strengthen and modernize its procurement system. Discussions focused on the newly formulated procurement policy and gathered employees' views and experiences to ensure the policy complies with applicable guidelines and aligns with the company's operational requirements. More than 50 Fenaka employees participated in the symposium, which covered key areas including procurement planning, bidding and evaluation processes, contract awarding and management, the complaints mechanism, and record keeping. Participants also discussed challenges under the existing system and exchanged views on how the new policy could address them. Employees directly involved in procurement activities provided technical advice and guidance during the discussions. Fenaka said their input would help identify potential challenges in implementing the policy and support the development of a robust and effective policy suited to the company's requirements. Building on these discussions, Fenaka said it will continue efforts to align its procurement policy with PCB guidelines and establish a transparent, accountable, and robust system capable of delivering effective results. The review comes after concerns emerged over several projects that Fenaka awarded in violation of its procurement procedures. The Auditor General's Office identified the issues in its special audit of Fenaka Corporation Limited concerning the procurement of goods and services, the company's financial condition, and the maintenance of its accounts. Parliament's Public Accounts Committee subsequently reviewed the audit findings. Following the review, Parliament on 11th August approved measures to address the issues identified by the Auditor General's Office and revise FENACA's procurement procedures. Parliament also approved referring issues identified in connection with the report to the Maldives Police Service and the Anti-Corruption Commission. The audit finding found that FENACA awarded projects worth approximately $144.62 million under 673 contracts between 2021 and 2023. Of these, FENACA awarded 438 contracts outside the open bidding process, with the projects valued at approximately $84.31 million.
Oil prices slips more than $1 a barrel as investors took profits ahead of an expected announcement from Washington about imposing more sanctions on Iran that may further disrupt supplies from the Middle East.
Brent crude futures fell $1.49 or 1.6% to $92.90, while US West Texas Intermediate crude was at $85.32 a barrel, down $1.74 or 2%. Both contracts posted their second consecutive weekly gains last week, up more than 5%, as peace talks between the US and Iran hit a stalemate, capping oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, where a fifth of the world's oil supply used to transit.
The gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock. There's so much of it. It's all over the place, sitting all over the oceans of the world. And it'll go down. But what won't happen is if Iran had a nuclear weapon and used it, then the whole world is a different place.
What about
You're not going to have to pay a little bit more for gasoline. The gasoline, the oil will go down rapidly as soon as the war is over.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is set to hold a press conference, has threatened to impose the toughest sanctions in history on Iran. President Donald Trump has also threatened to impose sanctions on Iran's trading partners.
The Kremlin says that Britain's decision to hand Ukraine classified information on British-made components used to make Scalp long-range cruise missiles would add fuel to the fire and was regarded by Moscow extremely negatively.
British Prime Minister Andy Burnham arrived in Kyiv on Monday on his first overseas trip since taking office and was due to announce British support to help Kyiv improve its domestic production of long-range missiles. Asked about the visit and the support, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov accused Britain of doing everything it could to prevent any progress towards an eventual peace deal. Peskov said that the Russian military was already systematically gathering data to identify the location of any missile production sites and then destroying them. Moscow warned London last week of unspecified consequences for supplying drones to Kyiv, accusing Britain of deepening its involvement in the war following a report that British-made drones had been used for long-range strikes against Russia for the first time. Burnham said at the time that London was committed to supporting Ukraine 100% against what he called an illegal war.
Gianni Infantino says that it was FIFA's job to close the gap between its wealthy members and those that have a few financial resources, adding that some prosperous federations did not want others to grow.
The FIFA president has come under intense pressure since the collapse of his proposal to sell a minority stake in a new FIFA commercial entity to private investors, which would have offered up to $40 million to each of the member football federation.
This is our task, this is our job. We want to grow football in every one of our 211 countries in the world. Some, unfortunately, don't need and they don't want that others grow. But we need to narrow this gap between the big countries and all the others.
Infantino is up for re-election next year, but World Soccer's regional powerhouses are discussing whether to move a vote of no confidence in him ahead of the ballot. Senior figures familiar with the discussions told Reuters last week. European Confederation UEFA, Asia's AFC, and CONCACAF, which represents North and Central America and the Caribbean, are considering the move. The Caribbean Football Union or CFU, forms part of CONCACAF, and Infantino said he had been very happy with how he had been received on the sidelines of the body's Under-14 Challenge Series in the Dominican Republic. CONCACAF President Victor Montagliano has asked Infantino to stay away from the tournament, saying his presence would overshadow the event due to mounting opposition to his leadership.
Viral Chinese movie character Niu Lai gets a robotic makeover at Beijing's World Robot Conference.
Shanghai-based Figurebot 3D printed and painted the baby cow's head and fitted it into one of its 60-centimeter humanoid robots. Niu Lai is the title character of The Bull Comes, a crudely animated homemade movie about a newborn calf that has become an unlikely box office hit in China. China said the response from visitors gave the company more confidence ahead of the robot's planned global launch in September or October. Made on a shoestring budget with hand-down posters, The Bull Comes, or Niu Lai in Chinese, grossed the equivalent of more than $4 million. The movie tells the story of a frail and exhausted newborn calf who struggles to stand up and tells a story of friendship, courage, loss as the herd faces danger on their journey to find greener pastures. The film flopped in its first week, grossing just over $1,000 according to local media reports. Then, with a boost from social and local media, the film's wonky animation, awkward storytelling, and discussions of its unlikely creators, an amateur animator and his supportive mother, made the movie a viral sensation, especially for a younger generation.
That concludes news for now. Thank you for watching PSM News. Have a good day.